You are watching Distance Learning from Laughing Water Studio. Today we'll do a couplet that tells us to accumulate less and become more.
Good morning. Welcome back. This is our last of the 10 videos for this spring term of 2020. And in spite of what I led you to believe last week, that this would be a continuation of the Twin Falls, I've decided to instead end with a 4-character couplet that I think is appropriate for the time that we're experiencing here apart and together. And so it's a couplet that tells us that to accumulate less and to become more. And I will demonstrate it today in 2 forms, one in a traditional Lee style and then a second in a more artistic Lee. So that'll be our lesson today. Let me finish up my ink here and we'll get started. So we'll start with either our landscape brush, wolf-haired brush, or you could work with a bigger brush if you had one, or specifically calligraphy brush. But I'm going to use my landscape brush. Start by getting it thoroughly wet, wicking off the water to start to form my point, and I want to really be pulling horizontally and straight, and then turn, pull, turn, pull, turn. Do that in the mixing dish, trying to get those hairs parallel, not twisting to get a point, but stroking and turning to get a good point. Then picking up some of my ink and then continuing to mix that into the brush, wicking off more of that water. Doing a little tapping to see what do I have here as ink. Get a little more of that water off and then test it on my test sheet. And I want to take just a little more moisture out of there and then remix it. So I have good ink in most of the brush. And again, test, press, hold, and I get less of a spill or expansion there. So we'll call that ink. And ink, particularly if you've hand ground it, will start fairly loose. In 5-10 minutes it will settle down, get a little bit thicker. So just be aware that in spite of what it looks like, it's going to be a little bit loose at the beginning, and you want to take a little bit of care with that. So we're going to start with the character for accumulate. Again, this is Lee style. Lee style, every stroke in Lee style has 3 motions: a beginning, a moving, and an ending. And I like to think of that almost like a pendulum. So go left, right, left. Every stroke on this page has those 3 movements. The wave strokes have left, but it's a down to left, then right, press, and then an open ending. And the wave is the only stroke with an open ending. So we'll start with the character for accumulate. Starts with a horizontal. I go left, right, left. Fix my point, keep my ink well mixed. Second stroke is another horizontal, left, right, left. Then vertical, and I will press and go into that top horizontal. Stay a while so it spreads, and then lift slowly as I come down, so I get a nice taper to that vertical stroke. Then down to left, down to right. Down to left is thinner and longer and closed. Down to right is a little shorter and contained so that it doesn't go beyond this right side, so you can park the right side of the character right butt to butt with it. Right side, then we start with a horizontal, a second horizontal, and a third horizontal. Trying to keep those white areas between fairly equal, and then vertical coming all the way through, starting above, ending above that bottom horizontal line. Then we build a box, left vertical, then horizontal connects to vertical, then 1, 2, 3 horizontals, and the bottom horizontal being a little bit heavier than the ones on the interior. So that is my first character. I'll then finish it with a down to left dot and a down to right dot, and that's complete. Next, I have a character for less, and it is only 3 strokes. It's quite a spare character, quite simple, which means it is particularly difficult. We want to start in the center with this vertical, not too long, but I want it strong. Then over here, a down to right dot, and then a down to left wave, which is unusual and is significantly easier for those of us who are left-handed to do. So there's a challenge for all you right-handed folks, and a gift for all of you who are left-handed. Next character is the character for become. It starts with a left vertical, it's a little bit down to right, not too long. Then a horizontal, and the horizontal will try to get to be this long, and you really need to rein it in. You want to be centered under what's above you, so I go left, right, left. Then inside this, I do horizontal, connects to down to left, and go back in. It's a closed stroke. Now I get to my only wave here. Starts above, comes down, I press a little bit as I go, and then lift for a wave. Then ending with 2 dots, 1 down to left short, 1 down to left a little bit longer, and in relationship to this down to left. They're a pair. Lastly, character for more, which is an additional challenge to get the angles right and the spacing right. We'll start with the top form. It's the same form repeated twice. It starts with a down to left, fairly low in angle. There's not too much of an angle, but it's not flat. Then a down to right, connects to down to left, which goes beyond that first down to left. And then we close this with a down to right, and these 2 lines are in relationship to each other. So you have a trend here and a trend there. Then I start the second shape, again with a thinner and shorter down to left, then a down to right, connects to down to left, and this down to left goes a little bit longer. And again, closing this with a down to right, and this is parallel to this, is parallel to this, is parallel to this. So that's our complete couplet. Accumulate less, become more. Something we are all getting practice with in this time of self-quarantine and distancing, but it's a good thing to remind us that it's not just about accumulating less, but it's about becoming more. Let's try this again, this time in a more artistically. I will change the orientation of my paper. And we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. So again, I want to refresh my brush. And these are a little bigger, so you're going to want a little more ink in your brush, or even use a bigger brush. So we'll start with the character for accumulate, and this has a almost more of a wet dot for that horizontal, another wet dot for the second horizontal, and then my vertical. Then my down to left, down to right. Then on the right side, another horizontal that is more like a wet dot, another wet dot, and then this other horizontal. And I'm still making these as if I were doing Lee style. I'm doing all three movements in there. Then I have a thinnish vertical down the middle. The underside here, I make that box with a wet dot vertical, then horizontal connects to vertical, and then 1, 2, 3 horizontals, and ending with my down to left and down to right. So that is my first character for accumulate. Again, refresh my brush. We'll then do character for less, and this is a particularly stout little dot. And to do that, I need to have a good amount of ink in my brush. Then a simple down to left or down to right dot, and then a long down to left wave starting out thin, and then I'm just progressively pressing more and more and more. Quick press and then lift to get that wave. So accumulate less. Then character for become. Over here to the left, again, this down to left is quite hardy. Horizontal, not too long. Horizontal connects to down to left, and we're really exaggerating our pressing here, starting thin, press, 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 and lift. Then my dots, 1, 2, this one has a fairly large head and then tapers, and that is to become. Lastly, character for more, this down to left, fairly short, tapers, thick down to right, then down to left, press, get a nice ball at the end of that, down to left, and then almost a dot for that cross piece. Repeat, similar structure, thinnish down to left, good pressing on the down to right, and connect starting thin and then progressively pressing as I go and get a nice ball at the end of that. And then cross that with another dot, and that completes it. So then I'm going to switch and to a detail brush and inscribe this piece. So I get that brush a little bit wet, pick up some ink, want to mix that well, and loading a small brush is a little bit different than loading a bigger brush. It doesn't take as much ink, but it does need to be well prepared and well mixed. And let's see, today is the 25th of May, I believe. So I will start my date here and then my name here, and I'll have a complete piece of calligraphy. And so we start with the year, which is 2020 is our year. And we are in the 5th month. And the 25th day. Then my name. We have a complete piece, and I'll add my name to the first one we did. This was vertical in layout, and I have a nice space here. I can do date and name all in one column. And again, we start with our year. So 2020 year, 5th month, 2 10s is 20, 5 is 25, and day, and then put my name a little bit lower here. And there we have a complete piece. So that completes our lesson. This is the last of 10 of the spring series of spring 2020. And coming in mid-June, I will begin posting a beginning series and a continuing series for both brand new students and more advanced students, called The Dance of the Eye and the Hand, and look forward to continuing to share the richness and tradition of Chinese painting. Take care now. Bye-bye.